What's going to happen in the real estate market right here in Southwest Florida post Hurricane Ian? Well, on this video, I was interviewed along with other real estate experts, and we gave our opinion and the facts about what's happening right here in Southwest Florida. I hope you enjoy the video.
How Hurricane Ian is impacting the housing market in Florida, is Compass preparing for a private equity takeover, and how to use one of the most underrated sales skills of all time to set more appointments over the phone with potential sellers. All that and more coming up. Welcome back to the Real Estate Daily Show. So let's start this conversation off this morning with Hurricane Ian and the impact that it's potentially going to have on the Florida housing market. So I've been doing a lot of research on this for the last couple of days. I've been talking to industry professionals, and really there seems to be two camps forming when it comes to this storm, specifically on the impact it's going to have on the housing market. So the two camps are really this. One believe that the storm's not going to have a huge impact on the real estate market. And then obviously one that says, well, it's going to crush that housing market. So let's first look at some of the people that are making the argument that the storm won't negatively impact the housing market and why they say it might even raise home prices. So the first thing I want to look at is an article that came out from the Sarasota Magazine. And it says, how will Hurricane Ian affect the local real estate market? It says, for real estate experts, when they talk natural disasters, risk factors, and probable increased demand for new construction, that's could happen. So let's look at what the article had to say. So it says, as we slowly get back to normal after Hurricane Ian, the big question in the real estate industry is whether there will be a sudden drop in prices and a panicked flood of fresh inventory from people who want to get out of the way of future storms. So the magazine interviewed this Craig Soretta, who's a local managing broker for one of the Sotheby's real estate brokerages down in the Sarasota area. And here's what he had to say. He said, people have short-term memories. So if you look at the other instances like this or other big storms, you typically see a short-term impact with reduced demand, then it back to where it was before, he says. So some people will say they don't want to live in a hurricane area, but just as many buyers and investors are watching to see if prices will dip. How many, we don't know, but it's just what happens every time. After Hurricane Irma in September 27, real estate sales in Sarasota and Manatee counties were down almost 17%, when compared to September 2016, largely due to the closures and evacuations the storm caused. So new listings also decreased, according to the local MLS. So this real estate broker is under the belief that, listen, this is just what happens every time there's a storm. We have a very short-term blip in the real estate market, and then lo and behold, it kind of comes back to normal, and in some cases, even better than it was before. And so Forbes came out with an article that shared this opinion, and so they call it the bounce back report or something like that. But the study was done by a company called Veros Real Estate Solutions, which is a provider of real estate property valuations for the real estate industry. It showed that property prices jumped by an average of 7% above the national average after storms like Hurricane Ian hit. So if you look at the screen right now, it looks at Hurricane Katrina, Harvey, Andrew, Charlie, and Hugo. And what it appears to show is just that 1 year after these storms hit, there's a small blip in the housing market, and then they come back stronger. So that will we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens. So there's obviously a lot of people that have the opinion that is quite the opposite. And so as I was doing research on this, one was pretty strong opinion that after the hurricane, this area of Florida specifically, the housing market is going to be hit very, very hard. And so this was from a YouTuber. The name of the channel is Reventure Consulting. So listen to what he had to say.
After this hurricane, after all this destruction, we are going to see two big effects, especially in Southwest Florida. Number one is going to be fewer people moving in, specifically fewer people moving in to buy a house. But number two, another effect we're going to see is a mass migration out of these areas. This is something a lot of people aren't thinking about right now, but it's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months. The reason I feel confident in predicting this is because if we look at past hurricanes in Florida that were really bad, like Hurricane Michael that hit Panama City Beach in 2018, we see the next year in Panama City Beach, they lost 12,000 people due to outbound migration. That was 7% of the Panama City Beach metro that left. So something very similar is going to happen here in Southwest Florida. Now,
So that's an interesting point. And, you know, the interesting thing really that I find is that you have these parties that have opposing views that both have data that really go against each other, which I don't get how both of those two things can be true. But it will be interesting nonetheless to kind of see what happened. Now, in addition to a lot of people thinking that the housing market will be devastated as a result of the storm, specifically, there's one thing that is undeniable, that homeowners insurance in Florida is going to be a major issue. So much so that the average homeowners insurance policy in Florida is about $4,200, which is some of the highest homeowners insurance premiums in the country. Now, what is super interesting about that is there was an interview done that Bloomberg did on their YouTube channel where they interviewed one of these insurance companies' CEO, and he talked about he believes insurance prices or premiums rather are going to go up to $10,000 per year for these properties. And in some cases, some of these insurance companies are getting out of South Florida altogether, meaning that they're not even going to insure properties. They don't even care how much the premium is. They're simply just not going to insure properties. Here's what he had to say about the housing market.
What impact do you think this is going to have on the housing market, Bruce?
This is going to kill the housing market. If there's no Florida homeowners market, then our insurance market, there's no real estate market, no construction market. It's going to have a big hit on home sales. We're already dealing with the highest premiums in the history of Florida. Our customers, for example, on average are paying about $4,000 a year. And left unabated without some government intervention, I think that'll be 8,000 to 10,000 in the next 24 months. Higher insurance rates, if you can even find it, means that you can afford less on the home purchase. So this is going to be a big hit to the housing market without some type of government intervention.
So that's interesting, right? And I think he, yet again, has a great point. You know, if homeowners insurance premiums are, call it, $9,000, $10,000 a year. They also talked about in this interview the fact that property taxes are also most likely going to go up as a result of having to rebuild the infrastructure in this part of Florida. So you have taxes and insurance alone could potentially be $1,000 or $1,200 a month just for those two things. We're not even talking about the mortgage payment. We're not talking about principal. We're not talking about interest. We're talking about potentially $1,000 or more per month just for homeowners insurance, just for taxes. So it'll be very, very interesting. So listen, with opposing views, I personally wanted to get the opinion of someone that I trusted. So I reached out to one of the real estate agents that I coach in Southwest Florida, who serves that real estate market, to get his personal opinion. So here's what he had to say. Okay, so joining me now to discuss the effects of the housing market after Hurricane Ian is local real estate agent, local real estate professional, Robert Wosner. Robert, appreciate you coming on with me this morning.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk about it. Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, just give us an understanding of the severity of the storm. Some people have called Hurricane Ian the worst hurricane, the worst storm in decades there in Florida.
Sure. I've been in Florida 6 years. So when I first moved here was for Hurricane, Irma was the first hurricane I've lived through. That seemed to cause a little more widespread damage throughout a lot of Southwest Florida, Naples, Fort Myers. Hurricane Ian really focused on the beach. If you were anywhere within 2 to 3 miles of the beach, the storm surge was just massive. It caused such devastating destruction for everybody along the beach area. If you lived 4 miles away from the beach, most people did really well. It's just like some landscape issues, maybe some roof issues, but nothing compared to if you live near the beach. I have friends that live on the beach in Fort Myers, and they went back and there's no house. There's just sand. So it's not even like you can rebuild. It's massive devastation over there. So
it's so sad. It's so unfortunate, and I want to talk to you about the storm's effect on now the housing market in those areas. Specifically, I want to start off with, Robert, the current transactions. What have you seen? What have you heard? If there is no house, I would imagine a lot of these transactions are pretty much falling apart. Is that what you're seeing?
There is some. There's a lot of issues with discussions with lawyers with that force majeure content in contracts. So there's a lot. It's interesting because Florida is a title state, and now there's a lot more lawyers getting involved that have never. I'm not used to being involved with a lot of lawyers and attorneys, and now your phone's ringing with attorneys that you've never dealt with before. So it's been a little change that way. One of our biggest issues is roofs. Because we use those tile roofs down here, so they can be anywhere from, $60,000 to $150,000 to replace. And homeowners insurance in Florida is a disaster right now. We have a lot of companies leaving. So our homeowners insurance already is the highest, I think, in the country, or very close to it. So a lot of people are even getting concerned about that. And the biggest issue also now is, if you are getting a mortgage, can they even get insurance? Because policies aren't being written right now. So all of our closings are delayed until we can figure out if the house is even going to be insured or what's going to happen. So it's been challenging. It's been interesting.
Well, I bet you, the number of, current transactions, to your point, that are all kind of on hold, that's going to crush home sales in that part of Florida. And to your point, what's interesting is Bruce Lucas, who has a company called Slide Insurance, made a couple comments. He was interviewed, I think, last week about the housing market there in that part of Florida and Fort Myers. He said it would kill the housing market. And here's what he said. He said it's going to kill the housing market, Robert, because if there's no insurance market, meaning no companies will insure these properties, there is no housing market. He said premiums on average are the highest in the country, to your point, of about $4,200. He expects those insurance policies to go up to about $10,000 per year, which as a result would be just under $1,000 a month just for homeowners insurance, not to mention the property taxes that will likely get increased to rebuild that part of Florida. So let's talk about that. And I think you hit it. There's a lot of insurance companies that are pulling out of that area. And so if people can't get insurance, what effect do you think that's going to have on people's ability to purchase real estate?
Well, the good and bad thing is the Naples market has about a 60% cash transaction, and Fort Myers is about 53% cash transactions. So that helps a little bit. We don't overly rely on interest rates and stuff like that. So insurance isn't a major, it's still going to affect a lot of transactions, a lot of people. but I think that we do have a lot of cash in the market. We also have a huge secondary market down here. We have a lot of people that own rental properties or people that like to get away from Michigan in the wintertime and like to come down here and enjoy the warm weather. So we do have a lot of secondary housing market. So, and those are usually bought in cash or close to, or a large percent in cash. So I think those people are still going to be coming down here. I think it's going to mostly affect the people that live here full time. Your average working people that need a house to live and go to work every day. I think that's going to be our biggest hit in our housing market. It's not going to be our out-of-state people. It's going to be our local people. And obviously now with homeowners insurance going up, our price points are the highest they've ever been. We're going to make our local market more and more out of reach for the people that live and work here full time. That's the thing I'm worried about the most.
Sure. Makes sense. And there's a lot of people that believe, just based on, past data like Hurricane Michael that hit Panama City, a lot of the people have migrated out of those areas. Do you worry about a lot of these people saying, I can't deal with this. I can't live knowing that this type of thing can happen again? As an example, when Hurricane Michael hit Panama City in 2018, that city, the next 12 months lost a huge chunk of population. 12,000 people said, I'm out of here. Are you hearing that in the marketplace? Is that something you guys worry about?
Well, of course you worry about it. But I don't think we're worried about it long term. I think we're more worried about it short term, only because short term, everything that the lifestyle people come here for is gone. The beaches are closed and then, we don't know how long. The boardwalks are destroyed. The Naples Pier is gone. The Fort Myers Pier is gone. The Fort Myers downtown area is gone. All the restaurants that people like to go and eat on the water and relax and have a good time is gone. But like downtown Naples, our tourist areas, like our Fifth Ave, Third Street, all those restaurants and stuff are opening up again. So it's coming back faster than we thought. The governor, got a bridge up and going back up to Pine Island within like a week. I mean, it's unbelievable. So there's actually buses that are allowing people over there. So I think short term, we're nervous. Like, I don't know what we call it season, when everyone comes down for the winter. I don't know what that's going to look like, but Florida is still like a really attractive place to live. I mean, we have no income tax. Housing prices are a little high, but our tax rate's pretty low compared to most of the country. The weather's awesome. So there's still a lot of really good reasons for people to come here. We're not afraid long term, but we're definitely nervous for the next year. So
yeah. And those are some really good points that you bring up, and so maybe not a lot of people potentially leaving. Do you worry about that maybe Florida being less attractive in the short term as Hurricane Ian is on people's minds, where they say, I don't know if I'm going to put my money down there. I don't know if I'm going to retire down there. I don't know if I'm going to, purchase a home there any longer. Is that something you guys worry about?
Yeah, I mean, you worry because with the insurance rates and people not getting insurance, that scares a lot of people away. However, this area of Florida in particular, we don't get hit statistically, we don't get hit with hurricanes nearly as much as other areas like Louisiana and the upper part of the state. So the Naples Fort Myers area is usually protected. Our last hurricane was 6 years ago. So it's not like an every year thing. Statistically, we're in a good spot. But of course, you got to worry. I mean, houses that were worth $15 million got destroyed. I mean, there's $2 million McLarens swimming down the road. I mean, so people get nervous about that. There's going to be huge insurance issues here, and people are going to think twice about especially owning property, I think, near the beach. Maybe people are going to want to stay a little bit more because, like I said, I live 4 miles from the beach and I had no damage at all. So I never lost power. The worst thing was we lost internet and my kids would drive me crazy. So that was the worst thing that happened to me, thankfully. I mean, I'm blessed. But if you live near the beach, it might be a place that you might not want to be hustling back to. So that's the only thing I think that's going to be concerning.
Yeah, well, we hope and wish the best for you and all the residents, that a comeback is fast, speedy recovery, And we want to thank you, Robert, for taking the time with us this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So only time will tell what happens, but all that we can do is hope and wish that the residents of that part of Florida have a quick and speedy recovery, that the housing market, I hate to see it get crushed due to something like this, because Florida has a lot of benefits for people that have been moving there over the past couple of years.
I hope you enjoyed this video by my friend Brandon Mulrennan about what's happening here in the Southwest Florida market. And if you want to know everything about eating, sleeping, working, playing, and the real estate market, this is the channel you need to subscribe to. So make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the bell so you're notified every time I drop a new video. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.